one of the elements of where they want to take the world is a third world war, which they wish to involve Europe, the United States, and well, Canada, North America, and Russia and China. I was told by insiders in the 1990s in America that the plan was to lead to a conflict involving China. For this reason, in the 1800s, letters were written, and particularly one particular letter between two high-level players in the secret society network, in which the 3 world wars were described of where they were going to go. And this letter included the detail of countries that would be involved and how it would be started. And it described the First World War, with the Germans brought into conflict with the rest of Europe and America. It described the Second World War in the same terms and said it would lead to a Jewish state in Israel. And the Third World War would be triggered out of the Middle East, involving Israel as the trigger, and would bring about the final global conflict, which would lead to them being able to offer the solution to stop this ever happening again, which would be a world government and a single world army. And the idea of that is to say, if we have a single world army and we bring an end to national armies, then we can't ever again have a war. What they won't tell you is those that have manipulated the war will be the same people that offer the solution to the war, which is exactly the structure of control that they want. Because there's nothing that changes society faster than a war. And this has been going on way back. One of the examples that I put in my books is the First World War in relation to America. In the 1950s, there was an investigation by a congressional committee called the Reese Committee into what are known in America as tax-exempt foundations. These are organizations funded by the Rockefellers and the major elite families, who then pass the money out in apparently charitable ways, but it's nothing to do with charity. It's to do with funding this agenda while appearing not to be. And one of these organizations that they investigated, and there was a guy called Norman Dodds who was the main investigator, was an organization which is still going in America called the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. What these investigators found was that this Endowment for International Peace was manipulating war. And they found minutes of meetings of this organization from the period in the early part of the 20th century, in which they were having meetings and discussions and saying, we need to change the face of American society and society in general. What's the most effective way of doing that? Well, it's a war. So we need to get America involved in a war. And Woodrow Wilson was the president of America at the time, and it's actually in the minutes of this organization that they sent messages to Woodrow Wilson telling him not only he must get involved in this war in Europe, but that he must stay in it for as long as it takes for American society to change in a way that's never going to change back again. And if you look at the world after a war, it's never the same as it was before, especially world wars. And they want this Third World War to change the face of global society to the point where they can introduce this centralized global structure. As they used to say in the 1960s with the Vietnam War, what would happen if we had a war and no one turned up? There'd be no war. What these people do is they declare wars and they get the rest of us to fight them. What we've got to do is stop fighting them and stop falling for this scam. Because if we go into this Third World War, then, you know, goodbye freedom.
Order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. And today that new world is struggling to be born.
The World Trade Center, okay? It wasn't the Iraqis that knocked down the World Trade Center.
A new world order can emerge, a new era.
That second one wasn't no commercial. No, second one definitely didn't have any markings on it that I saw. No, I didn't see it. The second one, it didn't have, you know, like no camouflage or anything, you know. No emblems, no logos.
It didn't look like an airliner wing.
This one did it on purpose.
Okay.
A black plane. Yeah, we see it going around. He went. Yeah, we just saw it.
And the plane wasn't no airline or anything. It was a twin-engine, big gray plane.
When you saw the second one happen, what did it look like?
And it was a much smaller plane, but someone said it looked like a military plane, but I'm not sure. I don't know much about airplanes.
It was like a military plane.
It was a military plane.
Could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot.
A world quite different from the one we've known. A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle. A world in which nations recognize the shared responsibility for freedom and justice. A world where the strong respect the rights of the weak. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be.
I am sick and tired of him going after my family. My dad is the greatest man alive in my mind.
We will make America great again. Get out and vote.
It's a long time between now and 2016, and anything can happen.
Something's happening in America.
In the time since President Obama was elected, the nation has experienced a dramatic shift.
We've gone just in the last 8 years from being a majority white Christian country to a minority white Christian country. And I should be really clear here, that means if you take all white Christians, so Protestants, Catholics, Orthodox, non-denominational, everyone who identifies as a white, non-Hispanic Christian.
In 2008, white Christians made up 54% of the population. Today, they make up 45%. Here's why. White couples aren't having enough babies to keep up with birth rates of other races and immigration rates. Also, an increasing number of whites, especially millennials, are leaving the church. It's a new reality Robert Jones details in his new book, The End of White Christian America. Think about it. During the 8 years white Christians have been on the decline, the culture has changed dramatically. Gender identity issues are impacting schools, Christians are facing unprecedented levels of persecution, and gay marriage is the law of the land.
Engine giant Google is again being accused of favoritism towards US presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton, and in particular hiding growing concerns about her health.
Ever since this video emerged, questions about Clinton's health have been raised across the United States.
Some have said it's like a mini seizure. What does it look like to you?
It looks to me, I'm also concerned about this concussion she had in 2012. It could be a post-concussion syndrome. You know, your balance is off, you're dizzy all the time, your memory is off.
This has become one of their themes. Here, you take my pulse while I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Make sure I'm alive.
Oh my God, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
But look what happens when I type Hillary Clinton's health into Google. According to their auto search feature, it's not an issue. Yet look what happens in other search engines. Now, we asked Google why this was, and they told us that their auto search feature is specifically edited to avoid disparaging and offensive content. It wasn't exactly clear what's considered disparaging or offensive about Hillary Clinton's health, though it is interesting to note that Eric Schmidt, one of the former CEOs of Google and a top stockholder in the corporation, is also a prominent supporter of Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Facebook is apologizing for featuring a fake, sensational news story about Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly in its influential trending topics section. The story, which has since been removed from the list, falsely claimed that the cable channel had fired Kelly for being a closet liberal who actually wants Hillary to win. The story about Kelly's supposed firing came from the right-wing website and the Fed, which boasts headlines like, What Obama has to say about white folks will make your blood boil. And Eric Bolling exposes new dirty tricks Clinton used to escape jail and become millionaires. The fact that Facebook was taken in and promoted the fake story was captured by the independent Journal Review's Justin Green, who tweeted a screenshot of Facebook's trending list before it was corrected.
As Hillary Clinton's email scandal continues to hound her, many are raising their brows over who she surrounds herself with, namely her close advisor, Huma Abedin. Former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann told CBN News' David Brody Abedini and her family have a more questionable past.
Huma Abedin's father was a senior member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Her mother was a senior member of the Muslim Sisterhood. The Saudi royal family asked Huma Abedin's parents to leave Michigan, where her father was a PhD and was teaching in Michigan. They asked them to leave Michigan and travel to Saudi Arabia and set up a magazine that ultimately became called the Journal of Minority Muslim Affairs. What this journal did is look at countries that were not Islamic countries, and they tried to push the advancement of Sharia law in countries that were not Islamic. So you have to ask yourself, what was the purpose of the Muslim Brotherhood? The purpose was to establish Islamic Sharia law everywhere. Huma Abedin's parents were senior members in that organization with that purpose.
Forcing the retreat of the American flag.
Very much so. We're forcing, well, think about all the retreats we're already having, whether it's capitalism, traditional values, faith, different retreats we've already had in public spheres. All of those things add up to what America has represented, what our founders gave us. And you start to abandon all of those. You start to abandon a lot of the symbols of America.
This U.S. citizen was once a radicalized extremist.
I went to prison for propagandizing on behalf of a terrorist organization.
He recruited people to join Al-Qaeda.
It became a call to go out onto your back porch and just start killing civilians.
We couldn't tell you then what we can tell you now. His name is Jesse Morton, and he has a new job as a research fellow at George Washington University's Center for Cyber and Homeland Security, where he'll be doing research and writing, but not teaching.
So what can you, given your background, contribute to this program?
Well, I mean, I have a background in radicalizing others. I understand the mentality. I understand also what attracts people to the ideology. I also understand how to counter that as a result.
The hope that Morton can stop others from becoming extremists. But can he be trusted? Take a look at this story from CNN's Drew Griffin nearly 7 years ago, when Morton called himself Yunus Abdullah Muhammad.
We're commanded to terrorize the disbelievers. And this is a religion, like I said.
Commanded to terrorize?
In the Quran says very clearly in the Arabic language, Turhibuna. This means terrorize them. It's a command from Allah.
We showed the story to Seamus Hughes, who hired Morton to work at George Washington.
That you see the United States as the enemy it really is.
Is this the man that you know now?
No.
Trillions of dollars in the Middle East, trillions. We shouldn't have ever gone into Iraq. I said it from the beginning. I said it from the beginning. And then Obama came in, and normally you want to clean up. He made a bigger mess out of it. He made such a mess. And then you had Hillary with Libya. So sad. In fact, in many respects, you know, they honor President Obama. ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS, okay? He's the founder. He founded ISIS. And I would say the co-founder would be crooked Hillary Clinton. Co-founder, crooked Hillary Clinton.
And I would call Hillary Clinton evil, except that I would expect to be sued for defamation of character by evil. I've been tracking this lady and her background now for 25 years. This lady should be in jail and the key thrown mid-Atlantic. Instead, she is running for office and is very possibly going to be the next president of the United States if she can keep at bay all that there is to come out about her. Now think about that. We have someone who is so monumentally pure, undiluted evil for what she's done over decades, who, while the Clintons, including her husband, were so-called fighting the Bushes and the other party, the Republicans, they've always been close friends, business associates, and fellow drug runners in places like the MENA scandal and in Arkansas, when the Clintons were, Bill Clinton was governor and she was big in the biggest law firm that was so corrupt it's breathtaking. You look at all the background of Clinton, you look at all the stuff with the Benghazi emails, all the lies, and yet she is not in jail, yet, we can always hope. She is not on trial, ditto. She's running for president with a very good chance of victory. Now, you tell me, people, that a system that is so stitched up that a criminal of her global historic magnitude can be running for president instead of running around the exercise yard in a top security prison,